Buckle up, it's gonna be a little bit. Hi, I'm Chris and welcome back to the channel. So if you've joined me since the beginning a month ago, you know that I have a very strong opinion on some of the Disney designer doll collections.
That's my opinion!
And in my first video that I posted, I did a ranking of every Disney designer collection. I decided it would be a good idea to take every collection and rank every doll in that collection. However, there is a conversation I want to have, and it's about how I'd like to move this channel forward. I am also a designer. Trust me, I literally have a bachelor's in costume design. What I'd really love to do is, especially with collections where either I wish they did other things with, or I wish they changed, or how I would have done it, I would love to do a series called Design Doctor, where I take those lines and I do my own designs and make videos talking about my design process and what I would have done. So if that's something you guys would be interested in, please comment below that you'd be interested in seeing a Design Doctor series so I know whether to spend time doing it or not, because I do a lot of like research and I do a lot of like sketching and all that. So, you know, I don't want to be wasting time. People don't want to see it. We're going to now talk about what I deem the worst designer collection. My opinion.
That's my opinion!
The worst designer collection to exist in the Disney designer series dolls lines from the Disney store. I think what the big thing is that a lot of people are hungry for Disney villain things, because compared to Disney princesses, Disney villains actually have far, far less in toys, in dolls particularly. There are a few good collector dolls of Disney villains. I think that Mattel's Great Villains collection is one of their best for Disney collector dolls. But in general, like especially when they try to do playline, a lot of times the Disney villains come off really struggle bus. And I think it's because there is this sense of camp with Disney villains in particular. You know, they're campy. Some of them are literally based on drag queens. I think that a lot of times designers, when they try to do things, they really try to amp it up. But the problem is sometimes it just comes off crapped up. Like if Michelle Visage saw this entire line of Disney Masquerade villain dolls, I think she would have a lot to say. This line had a lot of potential because the Masquerade series from the year before, I think in general was really, really pretty. They didn't take like super big risks, but it was overall a pretty line. I love my Esmeralda that I have from that collection. I remember it was 2020 and there were like rumblings on the Facebook groups about Disney doll collectors that they're doing a villains version of the Masquerade series this year because the year before was successful. And I was like, and yet we're not getting a second part of the premiere series. When I saw the dolls, this was my reaction. Yeah! I just hate that they're so crapped up. And I hate that they made choices with particular characters that made almost no sense. And I think, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, I love this line, it's gorgeous, but like, and I truly only think it's because the photography was so well done, and I think it's just because people wanted Disney villain dolls, so it's kind of like a we're gonna take what we can get thing. I hate the packaging for these dolls. I really hate it. I don't get why they couldn't have just kept it with how the first series went, because the way that they set them up was pretty decent. Except for those stupid slip covers. I hated those slip covers. Mine is just like hiding somewhere. A lot of people disagree with me that this is the worst. I actually made a TikTok years ago where I talked about how I thought this was the worst, and I got so many things, people being like, well, you don't get camp. With some of these designers that did this, I would love to sit down with them and openly listen to them about their design process for this line, because I need to know what happened. Hey, so Chris from editing. So this is pretty embarrassing, but when I was doing my image research to pull up images to use for this video, I actually found the I found the website portfolio for the designer of the villains collection. And it was actually pretty insightful to see what they were going for, because they did write a little bit, and it made me understand a little bit more. But then I was mad because I was seeing some of their sketches and concepts, and they seem a little different from what the product ended up being, to a point where I was like, you know what? I think I would have liked these a lot better. So I'm continuing with what I say in the video, but just know that what I'm saying in this video is before I found this person's website. And because I didn't think that product designers like this would publicly just have their stuff open like this to talk about with a company like Disney. Bill Greening for Barbie, I feel like, is a different thing. And like Garrett Sander literally created Monster High, but I feel like with Disney, it's a little more under wraps. And maybe that's just for me knowing, like, for, you know, working at Lion King on Broadway, we're not allowed to like really talk about a lot out in public. So I understand a little bit more about what they did. And it turns out that this designer did a lot of my other favorite lines. They did the 2019 Midnight Masquerade. They did the premiere series, which is my favorite. So I am now a little more forgiving from what I was before. However, I'm kind of just like realizing like maybe it's just, you know, the choices for this. I still want to do what I would have done, but I'm pretty like, okay, maybe there were also some things that I don't agree with, but you know, that's part of learning. I do encourage you guys to go to the site actually and see a lot of their other concepts and art, because they actually did quite a lot with limited edition and designer dolls from Disney. And it was exciting to see because they did a lot of my favorite dolls. So it's kind of interesting that they did like my absolute least favorites and some of my absolute favorites. So that being said, I am still going to say my critiques that I had for the Disney Villains Masquerade line. But don't worry, because I'll have more positive things to say about other lines that this person did. I guess we're just going to start with what I deem the worst of this line. This one hurts the most because my favorite Disney villain is the Evil Queen. What is this? I wouldn't call this eggplant purple, so I think I'm safe when I say this. The eggplant purple on her dress with that bright red, with the black and the gold, it's very, she looks so congested. Chris from editing, I just want to point out that I think it's really funny that I'm talking about congested. Meanwhile, I have a pore strip all over my nose. So you're allowed to make fun of me for how I look in this video. It's a very aggressive color palette that I am not a fan of. It's just, and the way that the design is, I just don't get it. I understand that it's supposed to be, because if you look, her mask is the face of the magic mirror. What I don't get is where you try to make it work with the costume. Now, there are snakes on her costume, which makes sense because on the magic mirror, there are snakes. I think if maybe it was all black and gold, maybe it would look better. Does that make sense? If you got rid of the purple and the red, but even so, the costume itself isn't great. She doesn't look regal. She doesn't, like, I don't know what this is. Last year, I painted this picture of the Evil Queen, including a concept of it all being shattered mirror, as if she is shattered herself. It's a concept that I also used when I was at D23 in 2022, part of a villains group, where I did this look inspired by the Evil Queen, and I did an entire blazer with something to look like shattered mirror. I think if you are going to do the mirror as your mask, I think that doing a shattered mirror motif throughout the entire costume, I think would have made it look so much better. And I think that's kind of what Sandy Powell was doing for the live action Snow White. I feel like I talk about the live action Snow White every single video at this point. Also, Charlize Theron and Snow White the Huntsman, there is a shattered mirror thing kind of going on there too. And the Blondes fashion show, which is where I got my inspiration for that blazer. The Blondes did a lot of shattered mirror stuff with Evil Queen. You know, and it's not like saying like that they invented shattered mirror, but I think that it's a smart idea to use it. especially for a character when her whole concept is that she's so vain and she's so consumed by her own vanity that like the mirror is literally controlling how she acts. Second worst, I kept flip-flopping on who I think is the second worst in the series. There's only 6, so I'm gonna go with the Maleficent. What makes me really pissed off is, and I talked about this in the other video, I really hate that they used her 2012 designer face while everybody else has faces that look like they're actual characters from their animated counterpart. She sticks out, and not in a good way. And I really don't understand why they had to make her so sexy. Because if we're so to believe that this is the animated Maleficent amongst all the other Disney villains in this collection, I don't think she would be showing this much skin and wearing this corseted look. Also those tacky, the tacky vinyl purple flames on the bottom. It's so bad. And she's got the mask. Again, same thing with the queen with her mirror mask. She has a dragon mask, kind of, and I kind of just wish that the entire dress, kind of like that Mugler dragon dress, I kind of wish it was something like that. I think that would have been a lot better. And if I do my series, I think I'll do something about that. It's just extremely distracting amongst this line as sticking out, and not in a good way, because you want your collection to be somewhat uniform all in a way, and this entire collection is kind of like all over the place. So we have Lady Tremaine from Cinderella, who I went off on and said that she looks like a leather Dom Mom, because she does. Same thing with Maleficent. Like, this is way too sexy for who these characters are. Part of doing a line of characters that exist in the cultural zeitgeist is you want to make costumes that work for who they are. I don't even see this working for the Cate Blanchett version of Lady Tremaine. And she wears some very sultry costumes, but like sophisticated. This outfit, I wouldn't mind on a different doll. Like if it was on like some like random Integrity Toys doll, or like one of those like higher end Barbie dolls, like a black label or a gold label Barbie. But not for Lady Tremaine from Cinderella. Absolutely not. No. So the third least bad is Ursula, but she's one of the ones that has a lot of questionable choices. Like, okay, using plush tentacles for Ursula works sometimes, but other times it just kind of feels like a lazy cop-out. Would have loved for them to like at least try to do something with like a plastic tentacle, because it can work sometimes. It's just crazy. Also, it's so weirdly grim that she has her collar piece that's the skeletons of Flotsam and Jetsam.
My poor little poopsies.
She also has, over her tentacles, all this jellyfishy looking fringe that's just kind of covering, and you kind of get confused as where the tentacles are and where they aren't. And it doesn't really go with her black pleather corset. And then she's got like King Triton's crown on her tentacle, like a toe ring. And I don't know what like purpose it serves. If someone's like, it's because she takes the crown from Triton, it's like, well, but why? Also always flip-flop on how I feel about her Vanessa mask. I do get the point that it's like, you know, Vanessa is her disguise. Always flip-flopping, like, do I find this mask creepy or do I find it cool? Today, April 17th, when I'm filming this, I think it looks fine. So next we've got Hades, which a lot of people were really excited about. Again, I said a lot about this in the last video, but he is so crapped up compared to the others. Like, he's got, it almost looks cumbersome. I get the concept of his masks literally being pain and panic and having them be comedy and tragedy. I don't get the point of him having two masks. Unless it was like all on a stick and like they were like kind of like twisted together into one, that'd been okay. But like him holding like the two masks like this is kind of annoying, especially when he has this giant plastic blue flame all around his neck, and then this big smoke, and then a giant cape that has imprinted on it all the souls. It seemed like they kind of threw, because they didn't know if they were going to make another Hades doll ever, it seemed like they kind of threw everything they could at the wall for Hades. It was literally like, okay, so lost souls in his cape because he's the god of the death, or the god of the underworld. We're gonna put a giant blue flame around his neck because he goes on fire. We're gonna put a bunch of fabric around him to look like smoke, and then we're gonna give him 2 masks to be his minions. It's so much. Also, again, why did they make him so buff? Like, Hades, I'm kind of like, hey, like, if you hit me up on Scruff, I'd be like, maybe if I was drunk. I'll give credit that, like, the face sculpt is really good. Now, the least awful of the Disney Villains Midnight Masquerade collection is Yzma. I actually just watched Emperor's New Groove last night, and I forgot how funny it was, because I haven't watched it in a really long time, and how good Yzma is as a villain. Like, there actually isn't anything inherently wrong with her dress. Like, this is the one where I'm like, yeah, my small critiques, I wish her mask was different. I kind of wish it was like a cat. I think that would have been funny. The thing that just makes me go, is her molded plastic feather piece. It looks so cheap. You don't even have to do like much. You could just do like 1 feather. She does 1 feather in the movie. I think it's because feathers are something that are so textural, so specific, that I really wish that they spent the time, especially when these dolls cost like $130 plus tax and everything. They take the time to like embroider things and stone things for some of these dolls. I don't understand why they couldn't have just had feathers. This entire collection really is just disappointing, and I would have done something totally different. This was the first year in my life as a Disney designer doll collector that I didn't buy one. I really would like to do how I would have designed this collection. There are different characters I would have chosen, different choices I would have made for some of the characters that they did. So if you are interested in me doing this Design Doctor series, please comment below. If you like this series, please comment below as well and tell me why. I'm always open to hear people's opinions.
My opinion!
Sometimes. Don't forget to like and subscribe.